And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We've got a very important topic today. We're going to be talking about Web3 wallets with an extra helping of embedded finance. And I'm joined here by Bam and Kai from Mesh and Metamask, respectively, for what I think will be a really important and really interesting discussion around the current state of Web3 and one of the critical interfaces and one of the most important pain points or challenges around user experience that we see today. Kai, thank you so much for staying up late for us. How are you getting on today?
Yeah, it's doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited
Brilliant.
to be here.
And Bam, thank you for getting up early for us. How's things with you?
Good. Thanks for having me. Excited to have this conversation with you and Kai.
Awesome. Thank you very much for joining. So if you didn't already know, MetaMask and Mesh have been collaborating for a little while now, and we want to talk a little bit about what they've built, why they've built it. But before we get into that and before we get into the questions, remember this is a LinkedIn Live. So please give us your GMs first and foremost. Let us know where you're coming in from around the world. Let us know what you'd like to know more about from these guys. They are experts in wallets, DeFi, the world of Web3 finance, anything related to those particular topics. If you want to know more, please put your questions in the chat and we'll try and get through those as we go through the show. With that being said, Kai, wallets are an absolutely critical part of Web3. No wallets, no Web3. But maybe a lot of people may not know the level of depth that someone working at MetaMask might know about wallets. Could you give us just a brief introduction as to the importance of Web3 wallets and specifically, what does MetaMask get up to?
Yeah, absolutely. So Web3 wallets are what we consider kind of your gateway into Web3, right? So there's kind of three major components to it. The first is it obviously holds all of your digital assets, and it lets you view and manage all of your digital assets in one place. The second is it then allows you to connect to the vast array of opportunities out there in Web3. So whenever you connect to an application, a Web3 game, that's all done through your wallet. So it's like your main interface for that. And then the third is obviously everything around security. And this is something that MetaMask specifically is very attuned with and something that we focus heavily on, right? Being a self-custodial wallet, it is extremely important for our users to make sure that their funds are safe, they have the control that they need in order to keep their funds safe. And we also give them the tools and the help in order to continue doing so. Especially in Web3, it's a quickly moving space with a lot of different opportunities, but then there's also a lot of potential pitfalls that people can get into, right? And so we at MetaMask, we're trying to give them the tools to be able to safely navigate the space in order for them to actually experience the opportunities.
Very good. And most people in Web3 at this point will probably have experienced MetaMask in some way, shape, or form. And we'll have seen actually there's a whole bunch of features and functionalities that have come out in the last few months, years even, that have improved the experience. But there's still a few parts in that experience that are a little bit clunky, a little bit maybe a little bit off-putting for people who haven't spent as much time around transaction IDs or cryptography or some of the pseudonymous event titles that we see in Web3. But we're making progress. Bam, I'm going to come over to you. Sure. Mesh, the story behind this is embedded finance, which I had to spend a little bit of time just kind of familiarizing myself with. It's a term we don't use every day. Tell us a little bit about Mesh, the origin story, and tell us about the importance of embedded finance.
Yeah, I think you absolutely nailed it in terms of like I think everyone who is working in the Web3 wants to bring the next billion users to this ecosystem. And we believe that the future of finance is going to be connected, it's going to be borderless. And to achieve that, all of us have the responsibility to make the experience as easy as possible. So embedded finance is not the term that we coined it. It was on the TradFi side, like there are a lot of amazing companies like Plaid, Yoli, MX, Finicity that they're offering the same type of experience for Web2 and traditional financial services. So I'm sure everyone in your audience had at some point interaction with those type of experience that you could connect your bank account instead of copying and pasting your account number, routing number. And we feel like that would be an interesting concept to build for the Web3 award as well. So people don't have to remember what chain they want to transfer assets. They don't have to copy and paste wallet address. But on top of that, like all of us had this experience that you click send and you have no idea if you did something wrong or the money will be receiving on the other end. So we want to make sure that we add transparency. Not only we make the user experience easier, we make the whole process more secure and more transparent. So, and in the hindsight, it all makes sense that why Mesh is Mesh, but I wish we were all genius, could figure that out day one, but that was not the original story of Mesh. Like Plaid, we were a B2C application. Plaid's co-founder said they tested 6 different B2C applications before they started like building Plaid. So it was the same kind of story for us. We were a B2C app called Front App. You could connect your Robinhood account, your Coinbase account, your Binance account, and manage everything in one single application. And then we felt like, okay, there are 30,000 Web3 companies. There are around 30,000 fintech companies out there that they can build on top of our API. So we launched that and we allowed other people to use our API that we built in-house. And then we never looked back because like the adoption was so great that like made sense for us to continue on the B2B vision and initiative. So we hope that our experience in security and what we have built in my previous company called No Password can help the Web3 companies to build an amazing experience for their end users. So they don't have, the end users doesn't have to go through all these hoops to be able to connect different accounts and have visibility over other accounts that they have, or if they want to interact with those accounts to unlock new use cases like payments, deposits, ramps. So we want to make it simpler for developers. Mesh is built by developers for the developers, but the end goal is making the life of the end user easier.
I like that. And I mean, it harks me back to I was working in financial services around PSD2 time in Europe and the UK. And the first time I saw multi-bank account aggregation, I thought, oh wow, I don't have to manage my expenses on a spreadsheet anymore. I don't have to physically copy paste from these things into one place. And I mean, the first use case for that was literally just bring the numbers together. Then eventually you started to get some increasing sophistication in terms of maybe you saw a pie chart of how your different spending data was across your multiple accounts. And then you might get some financial advice on top of it, even though the underlying metadata was trash. And it kept saying that I was spending 98% of my salary on clothes every month. It's like, this is almost helpful. At least I know the number now. But it feels like things have moved on a lot further. And so what aggregation and integration provided for the traditional financial services industry, when you apply that then to Web3, when you look at the opportunity with tokenization, with applications, with identity management, with using your wallet as a single source for you as your self-custodied identity, I guess there's a huge amount more potential. And we'll get into the use cases in a minute because I'm really interested in why you guys came together as Metamask and Mesh and what you see as the first things that you want to solve. Before we go there, I just want to come back to Kai for a second. The MetaMask roadmap is pretty significant, right? I mean, or at least what's being covered in the last few years and months has been massive. I mean, from MetaMask, the early days to where you are now, huge amount of progress. Without disclosing any trade secrets, what are the most pressing issues for you, or what are the B2B and B2C specific issues that you guys are tackling at the moment that you see we really need to take head on at this point in Web3's or the use of Web3 wallets history?
Yeah. So kind of like touching on Bam's point, like our goal is also to onboard the next billion users to crypto, right? And I think it really comes down to user experience at the end of the day. It's a pretty well-known fact within the space that the user experience is lacking. There's traditionally always have been trade-offs when you're using decentralized technology versus something that you can build centralized, and the user experience is much better in that regard. The other point that I'll bring up is that users already have a certain level of expectation for their user experience, right? It's like we've refined it over decades to a point where people expect things to just work. And sometimes, unfortunately, a lot of the times in Web3, things don't just work, right? And so that's what we're focused on. We're trying to bridge that gap to make the user experience better, because that's really the way that we're going to be able to get to the next billion users. If users have to jump through multiple hoops in order to actually participate in their first Web3 experience, and not be confident that it's actually working, and also be scared that they're gonna, get drained and lose all of their funds, this whole thing will never work, right? So that's what we're really focused on. Everything that we're doing at MetaMask, I would say, within the next year, 2 years, is really going to be focused on that. And that's what my team is particularly focused on with the MetaMask portfolio.
Fantastic. We're sort of overcoming the typing your credit card details into the internet phase of Web3,
Exactly.
which is, it's like, I don't know if this is going to work. And Bam, you mentioned it before, I really hope I've entered this wallet address correctly. I think it was end of last week where $68 million sort of went disappearing into the ether, no pun intended, when somebody fat fingered the wrong address and sent a whole bunch of Ethereum to maybe nowhere, or maybe to some very lucky recipient somewhere who's now, very deserving of those funds and has gone off on a holiday somewhere, glamorous. Maybe they returned a little bit of it as a tip. I don't know, but yeah, these things still happen, and that's probably not okay. Let's talk a little bit about how you guys as teams came together. So, Bam, how did the Mesh MetaMask conversation come about?
Yeah, so like our goal was, we build this amazing technology. Now let's go basically find customers for it. And at the beginning, we were not even looking just for crypto or Web3. We were like going after other fintech companies. And then the moment we showed that to wallets and exchanges and people in crypto, they felt like, wow, this exactly solves the very problem we have on the user experience side. And we're glad that you have done this, so we don't have to go and build 300 plus integrations that you have. And part of it is like building the integration. The other piece of it is like maintaining all of that integration. I'm sure Kai understands the complexity of that, because they have like multiple integrations with different parties. And then the other piece is the security, right? So you want to make sure that what you're building is secure, and it's also not against the ethos of Web3. Like, you don't want to tell users, okay, you're giving all of your data all of a sudden to us. And yes, your asset is self-custody, but your data is not. So you want to make sure that everything is as transparent as Web3 and as open as Web3. But at the same time, we are like changing the user experience and improving the security. So it was like organically, names that came to our mind was like top 10 wallets, and MetaMask is on top of the list. So we started the conversation. It kind of made sense for MetaMask team, and we started building that feature together. But one thing that kind of helped us to be able to prioritize the conversation with MetaMask team is, and I was amazed by that, because most of the wallets, they want like, okay, give me more AUM, give me more revenue. But MetaMask wanted to basically help the users on the experience side. And everyone knows that we have huge fragmentation issue in Web3 and crypto. People own different type of assets for different reasons, different platforms. So MetaMask first wanted to fix that experience to make sure users have visibility over all of their assets. So they didn't put revenue on top of user experience, and I really, really like that notion. So that helped us to kind of prioritize the conversation with MetaMask, and roll the feature out within weeks.
That's really nice to hear. Kai, I want to hear the story from your side as well, not for validation or, don't trust, verify, but more a case of from a product perspective, when you're looking at what Bam and the team had to offer, and you're presented with this concept of account aggregation. Was that something that was already on your radar, or is that something that kind of came a little bit new and was like, actually, you know what, that really helps us?
I think it was something that was already on our radar to a certain extent. It's actually funny. I just a couple of minutes ago, you mentioned that like in TradFi, you started off with like putting everything into a spreadsheet. We saw the same exact thing for when we did like user surveys, right? Like we were asking people how they manage their assets across multiple wallets and around multiple platforms. And at the end of the day, what they ended up doing was just creating an Excel doc. And we're like, this is like, we could be better than this, right? And so
Humans
that's
in a
when
spreadsheet.
exactly, yeah. And we started looking at like how can we solve this? And like Bam mentioned, building these integrations into all of the different exchanges, all the different platforms, that's not something that we are uniquely positioned for, right? So we're always looking at, what is MetaMask uniquely positioned for? So it's not something that we wanted to build in-house. And I think that's where the conversation really started. The other aspect to keep in mind here is that we are a self-custodial wallet. We don't, and privacy is kind of like top of mind for us, right? So we never want to touch any of the user credentials when they're logging in, connecting their centralized exchange account. And so that's why we are leveraging Mesh to help us with that type of integration, right? Like users' funds, we advise them to keep them separate as much as possible. It's just a general good security practice, and so we never want to mix those two. And so that's what Mesh has provided us in terms of like keeping things separated, but then also giving users the ability to aggregate on the client side.
Of that. Let's break it down a little bit further. Bam, if you could kind of talk us through some of the functionality or the use cases here in terms of, what are the features that this now enables people to have? If I've, I'm staring here at my tabs bar and I've got probably 8 wallets just in the shortcut bar from various different chains. Where are we moving towards with this? What are the things that I'm now able to do that I wasn't before?
Yeah, so right now our integration with MetaMask is basically a read access. You can just read in real time all the information that you have. It helps you to manage your assets in a better way. You can now, like all of a sudden, use services that can help you better if you have consolidated everything. Like you can share that with your financial advisors in terms of like understanding which sector you have more exposure to. Um, time access to all of your portfolio. So that's number one. But in general, Mesh, because of all the integration that we have done, we have read and write access, means like we have execution access. You can use our API to trade in, trade out. You can also use our API to do the on-ramp, off-ramp, plus you can deposit or transfer fund from one account to another. So, and if you compare Web3 with what like TradFi industry went through in terms of the evolution, initially we had like banks, like local banks that you could kind of store your value there. And then later on, these banks, like these branches of each individual bank, had to communicate with each other, because if someone wanted to go from Idaho to New York City, they didn't want to carry like a bag of cash. And then we started building interconnectivity across all these financial institutions. Like now, like we have for the last 40 years, we have like Wire and ACH, and we're talking about Fed now. Like we're evolving on the transaction side of it as well. So people can basically transfer assets from one place to another for various use cases. Could be deposit, could be payment, could be remittances, and things in that nature. I think the same thing will happen in the Web3 world. In the last 15 years, we had amazing companies like MetaMask that built the best-in-class self-custody wallets. On the institutional side, the same thing. We had like top companies building the best custodial services that make spot ETF possible, right? So all these institutional investors now can invest in crypto. Now I think it's time that we start building connectivity layer the same way that we did for the banking industry. And Mesh is at the forefront of that, and it unlocks many different use cases, as I mentioned, like payment, deposit, on-ramp, off-ramp, and we can help people to not only connect their accounts, but interact with their accounts no matter where they are. Because back to the key term that you mentioned at the beginning of the interview, because of the embedded aspect of the Mesh offering, right? So you don't have to leave MetaMask platform to interact with your accounts that you or assets that you have on your centralized exchanges. And I think I give you one more comparison. If you ask anyone at MetaMask what MetaMask is, they say it's a wallet. It's a self-custody wallet, right? The term that they use is wallet. So the Web2 type wallet not only can store fund in it, not you can have view of your funds. You have access and you can interact with the wallet, right? You can pay with your wallet for things like you can pay with your Apple Pay or Google Pay. That is what I see as a future things that could potentially happen in the Web3. So I'm not sure where that lands on MetaMask roadmap, but that is like in general, basically term, it will happen in the next 3 to 5 years in the Web3 community.
I like that, and using the comparison of what was gone before in Web 2, and then looking at what's possible in Web 3. Now you've got instant settlement, you've got different types of assets, all self-custodied. You're looking at being able to bring together multiple chains, multiple pools of assets, centralized exchanges, on and off ramps. Essentially, that becomes a very, very powerful transactional system or transactional ecosystem that is then with MetaMask as the front end. And if you're the wallet, and with the value in the Web3 ecosystem, the closer you get to the user, the greater the value is. If you're the wallet orchestrating that ecosystem, you suddenly start looking a little bit more like the WeChat of Web3. It becomes less just about sending crypto back and forth and pinging some Doge to your friend. This becomes a lot more powerful. And I don't want to speak on your behalf or on behalf of your roadmap, Kai, but it feels like that really levels up the functionality and the experience we could put into the wallet.
Yeah, it definitely does. But I think just taking a step back and kind of like bringing it to like where we are right now, Mesh's integration with MetaMask, what we're really trying to achieve is allowing users to get funds to where they want it to go, right? And the problem is with fragmentation, as Sam mentioned. With multiple networks, with multiple platforms, all their funds are distributed across all of these different states. Right now, if you want to get funds from one of your wallets to MetaMask, or another wallet to MetaMask, on a different chain, it requires 2 or 3 transactions, and every single time you make a user click something, you lose a significant percentage of your users, right? And so our goal is to make that path as seamless as possible, and ideally it's just a one-click path. And once we get there, I think what you were alluding to, I think it opens up a lot of possibilities to what we can actually consider the capabilities of what a wallet can do, right? And it's not even just things on the financial or monetary side. It's things with logging in and interacting with Dapps at a social level. Like there's a lot of really interesting things that are happening that the wallets can be, again, like this gateway to. But the problem is that we still need to get the fundamentals right, and that's what we're building out.
And spoken like a true product guy, you didn't want to get ahead of what's already built. And I appreciate that, and bringing us back down to earth just in terms of, look, this is where we are. Let's not overset expectations, but thank you for going on the journey with me just in terms of what does this enable next? Because I think that's important and interesting, frankly. And for MetaMask, I'd be very excited in a future like that, because that, again, means more activity, more transactions, more breadth, more value, more utility. Which is, and I love that you stepped it out into identity management or out into the kind of non-financial aspects of Web3, because it's not just about the financialization of everything. What I would like to touch on briefly, and this is again one for the listeners, is about security. You mentioned it, Kai, at the beginning of the show, that security is if you don't have security in a wallet, you don't have a wallet. And the opportunity of creating all of this future functionality, all of these future integrations, presents a wonderful opportunity to provide more control provide more utility, more functionality in the wallet. It also provides potentially a single attack vector to rug everything all at once. And so how do we make sure that people are safe, secure, and that in this connected world, people are still managing the Web2 equivalent of two-factor authentication or other methodologies to prevent the aggregation being actually just a bigger pot to take the honey from?
Yeah, I think there are really two major, I guess, like areas of focus on the MetaMask side for this. The first is just giving users as much information in a human readable format as we can and allow users to actually understand what they're doing when they're actually making a transaction. So you might have also heard we've recently had integration with Blockade to provide this functionality for our users. And that allows users to actually be able to identify potential malicious contracts and transactions before they actually go and do that. And so the other aspect of it is really just giving users optionality and allowing them to practice the safe, the best practices around security, such as making sure that you have different wallets for different use cases. But then again, we're back in that land of fragmentation that we need to shore up, right? So we're kind of pushing on both of these aspects. Our team is specifically focused on this kind of like second area, which is like, how do we make sure that users are able to practice the security practices that we recommend them, but then also be able to have the user experience that they expect. But that's the kind of like the two general areas that we're pushing on for MetaMask.
That's super interesting. And, from my perspective, regular listener, first time caller, I've used MetaMask very many times over the course of my life. And so far, touch wood, haven't been rugged. The interesting thing I saw, this was about 2 days ago. It may even have been yesterday. I was about to click on a website and MetaMask pinged up on my Google Chrome browser. Are you sure you want to go to this website? It might be malicious. I was like, wow.
Right.
MetaMask is now, it's not my antivirus or any of the software on my laptop. My wallet is now telling me not to go to certain websites, which I think is really interesting functionality. Is that sort of the step now? It's kind of that proactive security. Is that something is that brand new? Has that been there for a while? I'm really curious.
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure, but I will say that that's been a significant focus for us, especially in the last couple months or so, right? And I think moving forward, it will continue to be an increased focus area for us.
Got it. And again, I think when you're a wallet, you're not always in the center of everybody's journey all of the time. And so it's a bit like insurance, right? You buy insurance in one point in time, and then you only actually use it at the time you actually need it. And in the middle, you've got no interaction with you and the product, or you and the team, or you and the experience. There's all of this learning, all of this actuarial science, all of these warnings and alerts and alarms of things that business sees, you're never benefiting from as an individual because there's no signal, there's no trigger for you to be able to get it. But and seeing a Web3 wallet start playing in that space, I think is super powerful, because if you are looking at malicious transactions, if you're looking at concerns, complaints, risks, etc., and you're able to make that into a proactive service, I think that just becomes that. Well, firstly, it builds trust in the user. Secondly, it helps people, protects people, which is super powerful. But I'm going to come back to you. Oh, sorry, Kai, go ahead. Sorry, jump in.
Oh, yeah. One last thing that I'll mention around just kind of like the security aspect of it. We do a lot on the MetaMask side to also kind of like crowdsource to make sure that, if others experience a malicious contract or sees anything malicious, we take in that data and then we are able to then spread it out to our other users, right? So we have a lot of mechanisms in place. If you go on the portfolio, you'll see, we intentionally split up what we think are malicious tokens, malicious NFTs into its own separate category to make sure that users don't accidentally interact with them, right? And all of that is an evolving system that we're continuing to improve.
Very good. I like that. I mean, obviously you've got the other end of things, which is in a decentralized world, how do you make sure that that's a fair and appropriately balanced system, and it doesn't end up kind of kind of like YouTube copy striking, where teams can maliciously go in and start copy striking other teams, saying, "Oh, that Dogecoin is actually an illicit token. You should kind of hide that from the main part of your wallet. Give people a painful experience." It's like, oh, really? In a centralized world, that's very easy to do because you can just go in, you can check it out yourself, and then manually adjust it. In a decentralized world, maybe not quite as easy, and so. I don't want to get into the nuances of how you manage that, but it must be a little bit of a headache. Bam, I'm going to come back to you. And we had JJ from Chainstack on a couple of months ago on the show, and he talked about the challenge he has in providing developer tools around multiple different chains. I think 30 plus in his case, maybe even more than that. From your perspective as Mesh, how do you make sure that, like you said, you stay on top of managing multiple integrations, making it updatable, and making the experience for teams like MetaMask easy to maintain?
Yeah, I think one thing that we're proud of is we want to make sure that there are a couple of things on the developer experience. So we want to abstract few things for our developers or for the people in the ecosystem that want to use Mesh. One of them is we want to be asset class agnostic, chain agnostic, currency agnostic. And the other big piece of that I get into in a minute is basically how we can abstract KYC compliance, all the boring stuff for developers that they don't want to manage it if they don't have to. So they can just build an amazing technology like MetaMask on top of Mesh. So that is kind of the core. Like if you give me tell me what's his 1-inch formula for Mesh, that is my formula. So we want to make the experience for developers so they can build something within a day. Like that's kind of the ideal situation that we want to head to. So there is like we're right now, if I'm not wrong, we are supporting 40 plus tokens. We can easily go out and say like we're supporting thousands of tokens. It's really not that hard, but we want to make sure that if we say we support, like if there is a ticket and if there is something that we can get back to them within 24 hours, right? So by nature, what we are doing, because you're not directly connected to blockchain, we are connected to all the exchanges and wallets. We get the information that they provide to us. We just normalize it to make sure that we have one single API that we can offer on the other side of it to our customers and partners. So we don't have to build integration with chains one by one. But it's important for us to understand the notion around that chain. So when we get the data, how to manage it, especially if it's more than read access, you want to interact and you want to pay for things, then we want to understand what's happening on that chain as well. So as a result of that, you're just now supporting 40, but that number could be much, much higher. But the reason it's not higher is there is not much need for that as well, right? So if you have 40 tokens supported, probably you're covering 99% of the market anyways. But you're absolutely right. Like building something that is from like end user of your product perspective, super agnostic to different chains, currencies, exchanges, it's extremely hard. But we call it the swan analogy. So it's calm on swimming on top of the water, but a lot of struggling under the water.
I can just imagine what the dashboard looks like for 40 chains and 40 integrations, or the various different exchange APIs or what have you, and which one of them is red and orange and green at different times of the day, and which devs in which part of the world are going to be picking up the tickets to fix them. But that's the job, right? I guess at that point, you're not quite the switchboard, it's more than that, but certainly, the infrastructure to manage that. I guess once you get to a certain massive usage, it's maybe less push and a bit more pull that you're recognized as having those 40. You've got recognized as you have MetaMask as an integration. Are you now at a place where projects and exchanges are coming to you saying, "Oh, we'd like to be the next, please," as opposed to saying, exchange X, can we get on the roadmap? Can we do the integration? Yeah, of course you can. That'll be $500,000 and we'll do it in 6 months. Is the balance a bit better now?
It is definitely better. So there is always, like when you're building a platform like Mesh, there's always egg and chicken problem, right? So But our North Star was basically understanding what our customers want. And we wanted to kind of like prioritize that, and of course, like what we think about, like who can, like if the customer can brings volume, like MetaMask, where it's a brand that we want to work with, and because we're an early stage startup, so it's important for people to affiliate us with other brands, and so they understand, okay, we're not just like a random Web3 company, and
You can be agnostic, but you've still got to have priorities, right? That's the interesting
yes,
trade-off.
exactly. So one thing I learned from our relationship with MetaMask, actually there are many things, but one bold thing is just for MetaMask, it was very easy to say, look, it's a self custody wallet. I don't care about the security. I don't care about the compliance. Like, you go and figure it out. I just built this amazing technology for you. But that's not the mindset of the MetaMask team. So they care about like the experience of their end users, the security of their end users, and they deeply think about it before rolling out any features or any partnership. And that like we were trying to build kind of the same type of culture and mindset. So we can easily say like we're supporting 10,000 tokens, and if you have problem, like it's just a free platform you're using right now. You're just a Web3 company with 10 users. Like, I don't care. Like, we didn't want to offer, like we wanted to come across as a world-class company like MetaMask that offering the best experience to their customers. So to do that, you have to have priorities in terms of like what you roll out, what you keep, what you don't like push, and things in that nature.
Got you. I'm going to ask you both for the one thing that you've learned from working together, and I'm going to run this longer so you can have some thinking time. I prefaced the question, and now I'm going to do it because I think with every project, with every integration, with every new proposition you integrate, you get challenged on your current product thinking. You get challenged on your current technical stack. Some of the people working in your team may have certain limitations of skills that you didn't realize they had until they had to start building something a bit different. So I'll ask you both, and whoever's got the first one can volunteer to go first. But
I
what
can
was
go.
one of the? Go for it. Go for it.
I can go first because I was talking about like the learning opportunities. I already mentioned one, but here's the second one that I am amazed by the culture at MetaMask. MetaMask is a big company, but they are super agile and they're working super hard and also super fast. I was expecting, okay, like MetaMask is interested, but they're a big company. Maybe it's like Q4 2025, we can go live with MetaMask. But like within weeks, we were like able to get something up and running. Kudos to Kai and his team. I felt like, okay, like you don't have to be a startup to be agile. You don't have to be a startup to be fast. And I really, really like that that culture and mindset.
Love that. Love that. And it's nice to hear.
Appreciate
I
that.
mean,
Yeah.
as a user, as a customer, as I said, regular listener, first time caller, but it's nice to hear from that side that the Web3 ethos, despite being a behemoth of decentralized finance, I call it that because that's kind of, if you look at the values, the volumes, the users, that's where we are. Kai, what's been something you've taken away from working with BAM and the team for the last few months or weeks? Even, sorry, it may not even be months at this point.
Yeah. I think two things come to mind. The first is, when we were first looking at Mesh's team, and obviously we had this like giant user problem that we needed to solve, right? What really interested us and was extremely exciting for us was the Mesh's team's ability to kind of like look at the problem as a whole and find the most elegant solution for it, right? And not only the most elegant solution in terms of the user experience, but also with the security aspect, as I mentioned, right? And they totally understood where we were coming from in terms of we never want to touch the user credentials, we never want to expose users' wallet addresses to centralized exchanges during that connection flow. And also even just like little things like on the UI where it's like we wanted to word things a certain way in order to make sure the user trust is validated, right? And during that process, it was very obvious to us that Mesh's team was very focused on those aspects, and I think that's what made the actual implementation timeline weeks instead of months. So that's the first thing. The second thing, more on the product side, is how difficult it is to actually start beginning to integrate all of these digital assets across different networks, different platforms into one place. You know, at first we went through multiple design revisions, but we had this like ideal state of, oh, let's just put everything onto the dashboard and we just call it a day. And it was super elegant. And as soon as we plugged it in, it didn't work. Right. And so we had to like go back to the drawing board multiple times, figure out, you know, what does ETH on Avalanche versus mainnet versus, you know, Linea, all of these things. What does that look like? And how do users actually want to manage that? Right. And I think that's going to continue to be a user problem that we're going to keep iterating on. But we're at the first step. We've taken the first step to get there, at least getting them all into the same place. And then, yeah, it's going to be a hairy one, but we're excited to get cracking on it.
Very good. Well, we'll have to check back in maybe, I was about to say a few months' time, maybe a few weeks' time, and see how that goes. Because again, it feels like you guys are moving at pace, but doing it with the right principles at the start, which I think it makes it massively important. Is if you've got good design principles at the beginning of any collaboration or any technology build, at least then you know where you're not prepared to compromise, or you know that there are certain non-negotiables for what can and can't be done, and then you make clearer product choices. You make faster and not necessarily better, well, certainly better, but not necessarily easier product choices. It may mean more hard work, or it may mean more integration, or it may mean that certain features have to just die because they compromise the principles. But it's really interesting to hear the summary version of what you guys have learned along the way. We don't need to go into the detailed version, and obviously we don't want to belie any trade secrets here either. I will ask you guys for a final question, if I may, which is what more or what next to start seeing wider adoption of Web3? I think obviously this year has been a very interesting one in terms of seeing wider adoption of digital assets, institutional understanding and institutional appreciation of digital assets. I think the bull market we were all promised has not necessarily materialized in the way that people might have thought, but I think the world is looking cautiously at Web3, saying, okay, what's your next move? Right? We've had a couple of low years, but at this point in time, do you guys want to go big? And what's going to be the driver for it? It might be AI, it might not. But I think there's, like you said earlier, Kai, there's some fundamentals we still need to fix just to be usable in some spaces. What do you guys see as what's next, or what's critical for wider adoption?
Yeah, so from my point of view, the elephant in the room is the user experience. So if you fix the user experience, user will adopt the technology because it has real world, like in real use cases. People like across the globe are using crypto and blockchain for many different use cases. Like crypto already found the product market fit. They just need to make the user experience so easy that like billions of users can start using it and see the benefit of the crypto. And I think that's important for me personally to see how it evolves outside of US. So like most of the financial services kind of came from the Western world, but we're seeing adoption in emerging markets like India, like Brazil, like Argentina, Colombia, and in Turkey and South Korea. So like we never had this opportunity in the history that something that is so universal that anyone can use it and get the benefit of without like considering any borders. And so it's a true borderless technology. And I'm excited to do our part in terms of like making the experience easier to unlock new use cases for different regions. And I believe that user experience is the core reason for that.
Really well put, Bam. Thank you. And for somebody who came out of Web 2 recently into Web 3 to have such clarity on the opportunity and such belief in it as well, I think that says something for me at least. So really love that. Kai, I'm going to give you the mic back. What do you think we need for wider adoption?
Yeah, I would reiterate what Bam said, right? The biggest thing is user experience. We need to make sure that the user experience works across all types of devices as well. Like everything so far has been kind of set up for desktop. We also need to make sure that it works just as well, if not better, on mobile, right? And again, going to kind of like the internationalization aspect, like that's also going to be a huge component of that. One area that's actually really interesting for us is also this idea of web wallets or embedded wallets. That's something that we think will make a significant impact on a user's ability to actually onboard onto Web3 without the existing friction of creating a wallet and going through those steps, and actually getting people to experience Web3 much sooner, getting them to what they actually want to do, whether it's like playing a game, participating in DeFi, social, like all of these things. And so that's again an area that we're super keen on, but that also just like falls into this user experience aspect, right? Just like, how do we get people to do the thing that they want as quickly as possible?
I like it. Are we going to see embedded wallets with embedded finance, or is that too many layers down?
That's possible. Never say never.
Brilliant. I love that, guys. Listen, thank you so much. Kai, thank you for staying up late. I appreciate it. It's well past midnight your time. Web3 never sleeps, but I appreciate you joining us here today. And Bam, thank you so much for giving us the insider's view into embedded finance, into the workings that sit beneath the wallets that are going to enable the next million or billion users to come online and start using digital assets, digital identity, decentralized applications, and more. Appreciate you guys joining. We'll watch for the news in the next few weeks with interest. Thanks so much, and stay safe out there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.